In this video, I wanted to talk about the ego, or what could be known as the saboteur, when you feel like you're going through stages where something's going well and you just, for some reason, without really knowing, you just find yourself sabotaging things that are going well for you, just certain areas or aspects of your life, and you're never quite sure why you're doing it. And I feel like this video could hopefully help provide some sort of tips to try and sort of nullify those sabotaging tendencies. It's certainly stuff that I've had to try and work through, and even still try and work through to this day. Our ego is always going to be there. It's just how we can try and kind of nullify it to kind of bring ourselves to the top. And I think a lot of times you see examples also of like second guessing your worthiness, and just just question moments of happiness. And I've said in other videos where a lot of times we feel moments of happiness, but it's almost like we second guess whether we're allowed to have it, whether we deserve it, and also because of that you don't deserve some of the success that comes your way. A lot of times we sort of like a fear of success is, again, some things I hear a lot when you start to second guess the stuff that does come to you, whether you're allowed it, that success that does come. And also a lot of times just randomly overthinking. And again, I'm a big happens to me a lot, where for some reason you feel the need to think everything through rather than just letting things be what they are, letting things play out the way that they do. There's always a need to overthink or overanalyze everything that happens, whether that's activities, jobs, relationships, friendships, other things that are going on. And I think from kind of personal thoughts and things that I've experienced, I always find that it just seems to be the ego wanting to feel comfortable. And when I say comfortable, we know where we are in this current moment. We know the way, even if we're not liking the way that we are to an extent and the way that we're thinking, we're familiar with it. We're familiar with ourselves in this current moment. So obviously to try and change that, we need to change certain aspects of ourselves to see ourselves as the new person that we want to be, we're looking to be. And I find that the ego in itself doesn't, a bit like the fear of the unknown, where it doesn't know what to expect, it doesn't know what could hinder it or counteract it. So I always find that it tries to just keep us where we are, even if that means where we're comfortable at the moment, which in certain situations could be a state of sadness, a state of anxiety, a state of depression, ultimately just a state of suffering. And I find it's not just the the state of suffering it wants to keep us in, it's also coinciding with a state of lack. We understand that we want more, but we're also thinking too much about what we're lacking, which again brings down or brings in those emotions that we're having of anxiety, sadness, depression, just those things that you find are driving the suffering to come in as well. And again, in bringing in that fear of the unknown, which is again why we like to be, for some reason, comfortable in our own misfortunes or lacking tendencies. And and ultimately that's why, because the ego doesn't like to be killed, it doesn't like to be pushed back. So what it'll always do is it just finds, again, when you have those good moments, it's almost like bringing more unknown. Even though you find, this is a new moment, it's a joyful moment, it still wants to bring you back to that unknown. Hence why I feel like we're often sometimes second guessing our own happiness, or we often find that when we're happy and we feel like things are going well, we're maybe only lasts, I feel, for a few moments or a few days or a few weeks, and then we suddenly feel our saboteur tendencies almost try and bring us back to a moment where we're most comfortable, whether we feel that we spent so much of our lives in that state of survival that we need to almost like train ourselves to give ourselves permission to be in that state of happiness and joy and peace in the moment. And I find that's kind of where the sabotaging tendencies come in. And when I say little tips to try and help, I think one of the key things again is like I said, permission, giving yourself permission to feel that joy, feel that love, feel that happiness. And I think the more we practice and be patient with that permission and constantly doing that repetition, feel that that is what moves us over from a state of surviving to a state of thriving, where we're just always in that state more often than the saboteur trying to bring us down to a place where we don't want to be, we don't deserve to be. And again, it's going to sound really weird, but it is our birthright to be happy, to be joy, to be love. It's only through various events, programmings of other people, societal pressures, that we feel the sudden need to second guess everything we have, or we have to do things to earn people's validation and to be perceived as a success in a different way. It's how can I give myself permission to be happy and joyful in this present moment, because it's something that I deserve. And I think what helps in that is also feeling like not every moment has to be life defining. I always find that it's most important to be at your happiest self, rather than feeling like you have to live every moment like you're jumping out of a plane, or you're achieving like massive sporting success or career success. While that's great, it's also important to also have your own levels of success in the little things. And I think that helps again with keeping that permission and keeping in that state that things are working for you, that those sabotaging tendencies are less likely to, they'll always try and come in, but certainly have less of a destructive impact. And I think also trying to observe, just being observing to your thoughts and your feelings, I think is a really strong thing as well. It's something that I found really useful is you don't have to take every thought that comes into heart. You don't have to act on every thought, even if it's a sabotaging thought. It's again, where's the truth in that? Again, it's just finding these things are coming to try and bring you down, to bring you into a state of survival again, when actually you've been in a good state this whole time. Why would you try and second guess that or try and overthink it? Which is why I find certainly with my clients, when that comes in as well, it's just, well, how can you observe it and just let it go? Again, the sort of visualization tool, which is really useful, is you often find like people looking into the sky and just seeing your thoughts as clouds and they're just moving along, or you're looking into like a small stream and there's the odd leaf that kind of floats by. Those are the thoughts that they're not going to stick around, they're just going to flow on through. So it's also useful to be, as I said, just observant, and it will just, the saboteur will find reasons to bring you down, but you don't have to let it, you don't have to think into it. Even if it's a trigger, then you just work out, why is it triggering me? And I have got a video on understanding triggers that could be really useful. And again, it's just understanding why it's come in, understanding, taking the feelings and emotions from it, but then let it go. And I think that's one of the key things as well. And I think, again, it's flipping the negative to the positive, even when you find that these thoughts are still coming in, and you're, as well as letting them go, if you find that you're still struggling to let them go, so okay, well, how can you still work them in your favour? How can you flip them from something that's negative, limiting, into positivity? Because a lot of times the positivity is just what's truth. That's going to be the key overriding thing here, is just the positivity is the truth that's just going to override the negative thoughts that are based on unfactual evidence, thoughts that just aren't going to serve your vibrations, aren't going to serve your energetic space. It'll help keep that energy to you, and I find that's kind of really useful to have. And I think kind of as a result, it'll just bring you more sense of peace, more of those feelings of sort of tranquility as such, because you're not second guessing everything as much as you perhaps would do. And by doing that, it's allowing you more time to kind of be free to your own positive thoughts, your own observations, and therefore you're living more in the present moment. You're more time with that useless chatter that's not coming in anymore, that saboteur chatter that's just, it's not having as big as impact as it would, because you've done the repetition of the practice of just turning things from turning things from a negative to a positive rather. And you're just observing. You're just observing. You're not letting these things attack you in any way. And you're doing more things that bring you joy because you've given yourself permission to be in that moment. So you're just going to keep going looking for it, and you're going to be feeling it, and you're going to be letting it in a lot more. And then you soon become just more aware and more grateful of the little things, and grateful of the good things that are going on. So hopefully you found this video useful. As always, reach out if it's something that you want to work on together, it's something we can easily work on and easily start breaking down. Hit subscribe if you wanted to see more video content like this, and hopefully this video was useful.